Hey team, in this training, we're going to be talking about the two different kinds of brand names, okay? So in an upcoming training, we're gonna walk you through how to actually pick your brand name. It's not that complicated, it's actually pretty straightforward. However, a common question that we often get is, hey, you know what? I see different kinds of businesses out there having different kinds of brand names. So let's go ahead and give you a quick rundown of two different types of brand names so you can understand the difference between the two. So the two approaches when it comes to picking your brand name is you can either have a personal brand or you can have an organization brand. Okay, now let me walk you through exactly what the difference between these two are. So when it comes time for you to actually pick your brand name, you can go ahead and pick the appropriate one. Okay, so the personal brand. This is basically when you are using your name to be the actual brand. And so personal brand refers to a person, right? So think about whenever you think of a personal brand, a lot of times these are going to be like influencers. Sometimes you can also see people who are getting started in the consulting coaching space. They will sometimes just use their own name as their brand name. Okay. So the pros of this is that it is easier for people, because people build relationships with people. It is easier for people to build a relationship with a face and a person. Okay. However, the con of this and the con of the personal brand approach, right? So let's say, for example, your name is John Smith, you become John Smith Wellness or John Smith Coaching. The con is that as you scale, right? So maybe you get a team, maybe you get coaches underneath you, XYZ, really everything is still mainly about you, okay? And so for that reason, a lot of times we stay away from the personal brand approach, especially if we're going to be building an organization. Now, the second type of brand is the organization brand, okay? So this is basically where you go ahead and make the organization and that becomes the brand, okay? Now, for example, we used to run a company called NutraFit Wellness. So NutraFit Wellness is an organization brand. Now, the pros of this is that it does allow you to separate yourself from the organization. You can actually build a team, you can build a mission, you can kind of build an entire organization around the actual organization brand, right? However, the cons of this is that sometimes, especially if you're trying to build a one-on-one relationship, let's say with an audience, it can sometimes be a little bit more difficult to do with a faceless organization, okay? However, we found ways to be able to get around this by being able to hire UGC creators, so user-generated creators, people who can actually become faces of the company. You yourself can become the face of a company for a small period of time, and then you can rotate yourself out as well, okay? So again, personally, we have always leaned more towards the organization brand approach, specifically within this industry, because what we have found is that for us, it has allowed us to be able to lean on the team, the organization, rather than portraying ourselves as, hey, you know what, we are the one who have all the answers, XYZ, right? And so that is the reason why a lot of times you'll see us say we instead of I, because it allows for less of the spotlight to be on you specifically, okay? So for these reasons, we prefer, in our opinion, right, the way that we do it is the organization brand when we are starting out. Although there are pros and cons to it, there is no right or wrong approach. It's completely up to you what you decide to do. You just want to understand what the pros and cons of each and every single approach are going to be, okay? So again, that's going to be our recommendation for you as well if you decide that that is the approach that you want to take, but we wanted to go ahead and equip you with both types so that way you understand exactly what type of brand you want to go ahead and actually put together for the brand name training that we're going to go ahead and get to in just a second, okay? So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this was the training on the two types of brand names, so that way you are clear on the difference between the two as you go ahead and get into actually picking your brand. So with that being said, we will catch you in the next training.